Kicks. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Marketing Happy Hour, the Christmas version of the Marketing Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of Maximize Your Media, but I left my drvogelmann.com site there just for the heck of it. Maximize Your Media is our digital agency where we deal with people in terms of posting, social posting primarily, including Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook, all those good things. And we do a bunch of SEO also. And my coaching program is being renamed from Life Beyond Practice to Crucial Business because I want doctors to get into an online business. So with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host down below.
Me.
You.
Hi, everybody. John Paduchak. Yeah, we're going through a big rebranding stage. So we're rebranding our agency to Videos Are Social, and it's kind of exciting. We've got a lot of good stuff going on with that, and the live video that we're carrying out, and 6-minute webinars we're playing around with. All kinds of cool things happening over here.
I'm sorry, I look like I'm being scanned at a checkout stand right now.
You do.
This is like
I'm gonna fix that for you. There you go.
It's just the nature. It's the nature of the beast. The sun angle keeps changing, and I think it's going to be. It'll be back to the same craziness after the 21st when the sun starts to go the other direction.
I know. I got a room in like that in my house too, where I do video, and then next thing you know, you're like blown out with sunlight.
So, to my left is.
Yeah, that's you.
Ed Winslow.
That's you.
That's you.
Cheers, everybody.
Oh, I was going to say,
Cheers.
I have water because
Cheers.
I ran out of vodka.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had vodka last week. I had a Cape Codder.
That's right.
And, by the time I was done, I had another one.
That's right.
That's what Fridays are for.
Yeah.
As we'd say.
Yep.
It's a Cape Codder.
Cape Codder.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Mr. Codder.
No, not to be at all.
No. Okay.
We had some snow here. Did you, John?
You had snow. John had snow.
We got some snow. Yeah. We got
A lot of snow, right?
I think we got about a foot of snow. But my in-laws a little north of us, they got over 2 feet of snow.
Oh.
So it just depended on where you were in New Hampshire if you won the lottery or not.
It's some good skiing. I'm sure the resorts are happy.
All the ski resorts are thrilled. I was just listening to the news this morning as I woke up, and it like everybody's got tons of snow.
I would be thrilled.
Great time to come skiing, folks, if you want to in New Hampshire.
Can you ski there, or is there any quarantine issues?
They're skiing. They just said wear a mask, but we love to see it.
Yeah, you can't. Well, you can ski. You need to wear a mask. Most people do wear ski masks, actually, when you think about it. Especially if it's super cold. You don't want to get frostbite on your face.
Yeah.
But in general, I mean, it's an outdoor activity. I think the real issue comes at the lodge, whether there's enough room for everybody to be at the lodge, because that's an indoor area.
Line for the lifts. So
you could have a super spreader lodge and a safe ski slope. So
yeah, they've changed a lot of things around for us up here. We have to wear our masks like if we're outside, like pretty much all the time, everywhere. So
yeah, we have it here.
Rules
in Southern California. It is you don't have to wear it all the time, but you have to do it whenever are people around. So in other words, you could be walking on a path someplace or hiking without your mask, but then if there are passersby coming your direction, you've got to mask up for that. So that makes sense to me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So excuse me. So today we're going to start talking about great ads and messaging. And John was mentioning to me that he was just having this conversation with his lovely wife, Andrea, who is a PT massage therapist, about the incongruency in messaging, and that you can have all the fancy schmancy, great looking ads that you want, but if your messaging is off, if it's not in harmony with your brand, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot and waste a lot of money.
Well, not just that, but we were talking about even incongruency with people who tend to not say the same thing, act the same way, do the same thing all the time. And that has a lot to do with what we're talking about with advertising, because that sends off a certain message and scent as well.
So be consistent in your branding and your messaging everywhere, wherever you are.
Everywhere, wherever you are, whoever you are, even in your personality branding of sorts. Very important.
So, Ed, you're the ad expert in terms of display ads. Do you ever see that as an issue with clients where they have different messaging and different circumstances? I mean, do you have to gently guide them so they don't jump off the ledge?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say jump off the ledge, but one of the things that one of the things I think with the ads is that I think there's this it's almost like this lottery symptom that people have, that they feel like they're going to pay for these ads and that magically they're going to win the lotto.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't work that way. And they don't, and they there's some interesting things that happen in marketing that I don't think a lot of people really understand. I think the perception is that, okay, I'm going to advertise for one thing and I'm going to get a direct result from it. And it doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing for people to understand. That's number one. The other is that when you advertise business and if you target your market the right way and you stay in front of your market over and over, business will come in. If you're not going after the same market over and over, business may not come in, because there's that whole rule of 7 story, right? If you keep touching people, 7 times minimum before they'll do business with you. And so the whole concept is that you have to stay in front of them over and over. So, these display ads or any kind of ads, if you run this, even in magazines or postcards or whatever it is, if you were consistently sending out postcards to the same people over and over, and you send it out with enough frequency so that they remember you, when they're getting closer to buying, they're going to keep that card, or they're going to keep it around somewhere. They're going to put it on the refrigerator, or they're going to put it someplace where they can see it.
On a cork board. They'll just stick it with a thumbtack or something.
And I think, one of the things that I see, it really, I had I lost some clients because I didn't really know how to sell, display ads in the very beginning. And, there's some things that I've seen that are really sort of interesting. One of the things that I see is that the display ads generate business from people that the business owner already knows. And you may not have seen somebody for a long time, but all of a sudden they start seeing your ads and now you're fresh in their mind. I've seen this with dentists where they start running display ads, and about 6, 7, 8 weeks down the road, all of a sudden they start to see their patients calling and booking more frequently. But they don't see that as a direct result of the ads, because the patient is not calling up and saying, hey, I saw your ad, I figured I better book. All they do is they call up and say, hey, I want to make an appointment.
Yeah, we had that problem with trying to track patients as to what the source was when I was in practice in DC for 30 plus years. And it was interesting because we had this little sheet. I may have mentioned this before. We had this little sheet of the various things, and the staff would check off which one they came in on. And somebody would say, well, I'm coming in because I found you in the yellow pages. And it actually wasn't. It was a cardiologist had seen one of my coupons at his house. He recommended me to the patient, and the patient found me in the yellow pages. But the actual source turned out to be, you would think it was a referral. No, the source turned out to be the coupon that was sent out, which stimulated the cardiologist to recommend me to the patient who found me in the yellow pages. Yeah. So it's very difficult to attribute sources.
It is.
That's marketing. And, I think where people make the mistake is they think, well, it's not really working. And, it was interesting, a perfect example. Mitch from Cogent Realty in New York got 2 leads this past week. Both were 5,000 square foot leads.
Mm-hmm.
And these were from the World Trade Center. And he ranks really well for, office space cost at the World Trade Center.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I was talking to him the other day because he wants to work with me to sell the display ads to commercial real estate owners. And he said, it'd be really helpful if I would get some leads. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You did get some leads. You've gotten 3, like you were getting nothing,
Yeah.
0. And then all of a sudden you got 3 5,000 square foot leads.
That's big.
Before you were getting, you were getting leads and closing deals, but there were a lot of, 2 or 3,000 square foot leasing deals, which are decent size in the city because you can make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. But all of a sudden he got 3 5,000 square foot deals.
Yeah.
And what happened was they started to come in right around that 6-7 week period. And it's like clockwork. When you do the retargeting ads, or even if it's a, fresh ads, people see your ad over and over and over. And that's when it starts to come in. And I said to Mitch, Mitch, the ads are coming in, the leads are coming in because people are coming to your site, they see your site, but then they see the ads over and over. But I'm not advertising for the, I'm getting these leads from, these are I got a World Trade Center lead, not a furnished office space lead, which is what I'm advertising with the display ads. And I said, you have to understand, it's just advertising. Just because like if you've ever been a member of like BNI, BNI actually says this, that one of the things you want to do when you join BNI is they tell you when you stand up and give your commercial, be very specific about what you want. Don't stand up and say like, hey, I'm a digital marketing agency and I'm looking for leads from any business I can get. And that doesn't convert. But what converts is if you get up one week and say, hey, I'm looking for, a great lead for me this week would be a dentist. Maybe the next week would be great lead for me this week would be an insurance agent. And what happens is, and I've experienced this myself because I was a member of BNI, people would come up to you and say, hey, I heard you're looking for dentists, but I have a lawyer that's looking for some internet marketing help. Can you help them? Well, of course I can help them. So it's when you're advertising, yes, it's a good idea to be out there and be very specific and change your ads around a little bit, but it's that advertising that's going to bring people in. I think that's one of the things that I've learned just running. You would never know because if you don't run ads and experience this, you would never really know. And if you've never done it before, you think, well, okay, if I advertise for furnished office space, I'm going to get a furnished office space lead. Doesn't always work that way.
And it can stimulate existing clients too. I think a lot of people are looking, I want a lead, I want a lead, I want a lead. But boy, if you can just use advertising to stimulate either referrals from your existing client or get people to return to you. When we had return patients were the best ones in the world because it would cost me hundreds of dollars to get a new patient, but very little just to stimulate one of the existing patients to come in or refer a family member.
I heard it said that these display ads are the highest intent ads because when somebody does, if somebody does a search and they land on your website, they've had, that's a high intent lead. But the person then that's been dripped on over and over and over, who initially had intent but wasn't ready to buy, but they see your ad and then they click on it and they contact you, that's a very high intent ad. So it's, I think the important thing for people to understand is that if you market, you have to have a strategy first. If you don't have a strategy, then you're gonna take an ad out in the, the classified section of your local newspaper and hope that somebody calls you and gets you get this piece of business. It doesn't.
Or you're going to take a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal with the wrong messaging. And wonder and see, and if you don't get any results or don't get the results that you wanted, you'll say, see, advertising doesn't work.
Right. That's right.
So John, we've often talked about the 7 touch points that Ed was mentioning too, but hasn't it really changed from, I've heard figures like 11 touch points nowadays, and one source had 13. This is like almost double of what the magic number of 7 was.
People saying a lot more because our attention span is much less. We're just so inundated with stuff coming in from all directions that I think it's increased it to more. It used to be 7, but I think you're right. I think it's more like double that now.
There's
7, 11.
I don't think there's any way to know. I think the real key is your business strategy and staying in front of that same audience over and over. and you just don't know because, some people may take years before they're ready to buy.
Right.
Or trust you.
I had people who saved a coupon of mine and 3.5 years later came in. The coupon had long expired, mind you, but somehow they saved that sucker.
They kept it.
Yeah.
I do that a lot of times when a coupon comes in and just like put it aside and then all of a sudden go, oh, I didn't use that, but I really should go over there again because, I like the food or whatever it might be. And the other thing that I was going to say is, the consistency is so important. So like if you put an ad out that says one thing and then your website or something else says another, and the consistency is off, people won't pay attention to the ad. So, that's another big issue with it. So you want to make sure that everything is very congruent through everything that you do, that the message is very clear and says the same thing throughout everything.
I've seen that happen sometimes where I would have messages like really old ads or old offers, and we made changes in them. And the best example I can give is that we recently just threw together, my wife and I, a Shopify store to sell Mexican aprons and face masks. And we brought all these things in from Mexico. And suddenly we're plunged into the retail world. And it's just very interesting to see when you give a discount or a special that we did a Black Friday thing and then people clamored they wanted more of the Black Friday discount for a longer time. So we gave it out like for a couple more days. I think it was 3 more days.
Okay.
And then people come back to you and they're saying, well, when are you going to have your next discount? When are you, and they don't seem to understand, like they're going to wait. They're going to be bargain hunters. And they're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting for your very next special or offer or whatever. Yeah. But after the Black Friday stuff was over with, and we just stumbled upon this only because when Maggie's doing her Instagram lives every Tuesday at 1:00 Pacific, people would always ask her, where'd you get that apron? Where can I get one? How can I get one? And we got them from the mercados in Tijuana and other places. And it's because we were only 20 minutes from the border. So we jump across the border, get some aprons, come back. And suddenly we're into inventory. We're doing discounts. We got sales tax. We got all this stuff. It's just kind of crazy. But people have certain expectations, too, that they're going to get a discount at some point in the future. And some people are holding off on making a buying decision because they believe that in the future, it's suddenly going to be less. But we have employed a degree of scarcity, which is absolutely true, which the inventory levels have been dropping in certain popular items. And we just haven't been able to get back across the border to restock. And so you see there's an urgency partly from Christmas. Christmas is coming. And so people want to can I get it delivered by Christmas? Can you ship to Canada? And sometimes you can be super accommodating. Other times you just have to say no. And so my question is overall, when you're advertising, mind you, this has not been advertising. It's just all organic. Like, hey, everybody, there's a post, there's a Instagram story. There's maybe a Facebook post or something that just says, hey, we're running out. I don't know how advertising would fit into all of this because it's just such a sudden business that's popped out of nowhere over the course of 5 or 6 weeks. But it's interesting to see things like scarcity. That's real scarcity. And I don't know how you train people in terms of their expectations, at least in the retail world. I think we tend to look more in terms of selling services.
Yeah, I'm not sure if somebody's just going to be creative with things. A lot of it isn't so much perhaps having sales, but finding ways to make things top of mind. You have all the different holidays, the Cinco de Mayo, and all these things that come up, and little things that kind of give you a chance to talk about how
she had the apron of the day in her Instagram stories, and that worked really well. But when she wasn't doing it, suddenly sales dropped. It was very interesting to see how there's almost a social selling going on.
And again, like Ed said, it's all about staying in front of people, and she was doing that a lot.
And she has a very loyal following. I mean, tens of thousands of people. In fact, this is crazy. Somebody she's running a giveaway this week for a special apron. It's almost like the apron is that kind of Mexican blanket fabric.
Oh, cool.
And it has this picture of Muñeca Maria, which is a doll, a very popular doll in Mexico. And 2 different websites we found out today had screenshotted her images, put up a website and told people that they were a lucky winner and they had to just enter their credit card information in order to receive their winning. So that was crazy today, and her followers would report it to her through Messenger.
Wow.
So people steal stuff all the time on the internet. I don't know if people ever steal ads. Ed. Do people steal the copy or the creatives on ads?
I haven't seen any of this stuff that I'm running copied,
Yeah.
but you know, people, you know, a lot of people aren't that creative, so they do copy others.
Yeah.
You know, or listen, I'm reading that breakthrough advertising. I mean, I'm grabbing, you know, things out of that book that, you know, I'm using. I mean,
But
I
the
guess
principles and the ideas are different than actually taking images that are copyrighted.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what was really interesting was there was a section in the book Breakthrough Advertising, and I think it was like something like 38 headline ideas or 38 headlines, and it was how to strengthen the top 38 headlines. And so I was like, okay, boy, I can't wait to get into this. This is going to be great. I'm going to find these headlines, and you know, this Gene Schwartz who wrote the book, he's got them all laid out. And I'm like, boy, I can't wait to get into this because this is what I've been looking for. I finally found
the Holy Grail.
I found the Holy Grail. And so I started to go through the headlines, and I couldn't figure out how to apply them to what I was trying to apply them to. And I got really frustrated. I'm like, this is not working. I didn't understand what was happening. And then I went to the next chapter, and Gene Schwartz says, the problem with trying to copy headlines is that it doesn't work. And he went into the whole concept of how copywriters copy other copywriters.
Yeah.
And he said the reason why it doesn't work is because they haven't done what he calls motivation research. And he's like, you've got to do your research into your market, and you have to do what's called motivation research.
Right.
Because until you figure it out for your particular market, these headline ideas they're not going to have any value to you whatsoever. You're not going to be able to use them. You're going to be stuck. And I was like, okay, there you go. Now I understand it. And that's, you know, the reality is that I guess if you're going to copy somebody exactly to sell exactly what they're selling, yes, you can get away with that. But if you're going to try and steal it to try and apply it to what you're trying to sell, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I was almost say sometimes it doesn't work to copy exactly, because then usually that sets off an alarm too. Because if they go to some other part of what you're doing and there's an incongruency, then it doesn't work. So
you know what? Every human being is different.
Yeah.
You know, so what works for one may not work for you.
Yeah, work for another. Yeah. But a lot of times
there are some psychological principles though that are universal. So I mean, it's
Yeah, but haven't you ever gone to like an ad that you see somewhere, and then you'll follow it through, and there's a piece of it that's just not congruent. It just doesn't feel right. There's something about your intuition that just sets it off and says, there's something wrong about this. You've done that, right? I mean, we've all done that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think I've seen that happen more often with lower end products, actually,
Yeah.
as opposed to high ticket. High ticket usually is pretty consistent, but I mean,
I've seen that some stuff I've copied though, like Ed has said.
You know,
it's off.
You know, it's interesting if you look at Russell Brunson, for example. Okay, he's got all these books, and he's basically telling the same story over and over different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the formula for, you know, how to make $1 million with a funnel. How many people does he have in his group? He has 200. He has a group. ClickFunnels group has over 250,000 members.
A lot of people.
Okay, there's only 100 people out of that over the years that he's been running this whole challenge, this 2 Comma Club challenge. There's only 100 people that have done $1 million in a year out of 250,000 people.
Yep.
And he's giving it to you and saying, here it is. Just copy what I'm doing. And only 100 out of 250,000 people have been able to do it.
But you really have to have something unique to make those types of frameworks work. You just can't be the same old of anybody else saying, okay, here's my new 7-fig course on how to make it, selling on Amazon or something like that. Those courses are a dime a dozen in the e-com world.
Right.
Yep. It's a question of your own flavor. I mean, in terms of messaging, when you're running ads for clients, display ads, I mean, you're sticking primarily in real estate, right?
No, I've done them in dental, I've done them in painting, I've done them in floor coatings, I've done them in limo and private jet charter, and I've done them in real estate, and it's basically the same result every single time. It's this. It really, one of the first experiences that I had. I don't know if I told this story before, but there was a guy who I was retained by, who had a limo and private jet charter business down in Stamford, Connecticut. And so we started running the ads for him. I remember, never forget, I think it was probably 3 years ago, maybe 2017. We started in the beginning of December, and we started to run the ads. And right around like week 3, I could see all of a sudden the phone calls started to increase, because we put a call tracking number on his website. And I'm looking at the traffic to his website. And so at the end of January, I went in to meet with him and his team. And I'm figuring, I'm going to have this great meeting, because I could see exactly what happened. And I mean, the amount of phone calls that came in was high. Like maybe we went from like 160 to 130 or something or 60 to 130. I mean, it's a big
more than double. Yeah.
And I listened to the recordings of the calls, and I could hear that these are good calls. These are people looking to make appointments, to book a limo, to go to the JFK or wherever. And so I went in to meet with him, and when I met with him, he told me that I said, here's the stats, here's what's going on. And he said, yeah, but the ads aren't working. I'm like, well, what do you mean the ads aren't working? I'm like, you can see that the calls are up, the traffic's up, they're working. He said, yeah, but those are my existing clients. And that really it was like getting hit. That was like getting hit with a sucker punch. I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, the calls have doubled. I don't care where the calls are coming from.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't need you to market to my own, clientele. I'm like, well,
that's what he says.
You sort of do.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I turned the ads off, and the calls and traffic dropped.
Okay.
And then a month later, I turned them back on, and the same thing happened. That's one of the big, that's one of the big issues that, sort of going back to what we were saying, where's the business coming from?
Yeah. I mean, it's cause and effect, and some people just can't wrap their head around the idea that the advertising, even though they might have been looking for brand new business, that the advertising still resulted in generating new revenue that you wouldn't have had from existing clients.
No.
Right. So that's, those are high-end. I mean, those are your best clients. Marketing to you, that's something that we discovered that I never really thought about, because I was always thinking that, okay, you do these ads, you're going to bring in new clients. But what it also does is when you're working, especially when you're working in a local market where people know each other, and then they see you all over the place all the time, word of mouth, a lot of word of mouth, business comes from a lot of different ways.
Yeah. A lot of name
sorry.
I was just seeing a lot of name recognition, just seeing it over and over again.
Yeah, it's the omnipresence. If they see you everywhere, it makes a tremendous impression, and it's that repetition, that iteration again and again and again. It's like you're pounding a nail until such time as the nail goes through the board, and they finally are like, oh, I think I should call.
Maybe.
What's been interesting is like with local, what I do is with local marketing strategies. I don't really know a lot. I didn't grow up with social media. I'm not an expert at social media at all. And some people are amazing with it. But the one thing that The one thing that I am seeing is that, we've been able to build the group to about 315, 320 people so far.
Yeah.
And what I do is I just make these little Canva graphics. Every time I post something, I create a Canva graphic, and I always put local marketing strategies. And then what I do is I'll go over to my personal Facebook page and I'll say, today at Local Marketing Strategies, we discussed the best tactics for restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I keep doing that same thing. And today's local strategy tip is, and I'll say today's local, and I'll put that everywhere, local marketing strategy, because what I'm trying to do with that is say that before SEO, before websites, before everything, you have to have your strategy. Before you understand how display ads work, you need your strategy, because if you don't have that first, these other things aren't going to work. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to just keep branding the group local marketing strategies, so that people start to understand that's the whole thing. And it's going to take time to get that message out.
Yeah, it's that consistency. So like for our agency is maximize your media, and every single post that we make, that we send out, I have yet to really send out many of them to my personal page, but it probably would be a good idea to do the same. We have some technological things that we're doing. But we keep that brand on every single post, because that does create some brand awareness over time, and it looks familiar and it looks very professional if you're always saying local marketing strategies.
Yeah. It's something different. What I'm trying to do is use it as a way to differentiate ourselves from everybody else, saying that you need the strategy first, because once you craft that strategy, then you can create videos, because you have a strategy and a message for your video or your blogs or your social posts or whatever it is.
Which brings up an interesting point. Most business owners, I think, are more opportunistic than they are strategic.
Yeah.
Like especially entrepreneurs jump from one thing to the next.
Yeah. Well, it depends. That's, again, everybody's different. An entrepreneur, would you call a dentist or a bathroom remodeler or a deck building company or a divorce lawyer or a insurance agency, are they entrepreneurs? Or they, would you call them entrepreneurs? They're sort of like businesses with salespeople.
Businesses with salespeople. So would you say that they're not strategic, or they're just kind of following what everybody told them to do, like a practice management group or something like that?
Yeah, I think they're more,
or imitating what the guy down
know.
the street's doing.
I don't know if they're strategic or not, but they're, the strategy of building their sales business, they need to be strategic. It's not like you need all these different angles. You just need to know who is your target client and where are they, and why do you exist? Like, what do you have that's so unique and different? If you're selling, if you're a local insurance agency, what makes you different than the Allstate guy? Or but what's interesting is in regards to the advertising is when you look at this is one of the things that Gene Schwartz talks about, is the market where which I think is where we're at right now in the business world, especially in local markets, is that every single website in a particular vertical is the same website. The only difference is the logo. So how do you stand out from everybody else? Is it that you happen to be higher on the search? And one of the things that one of the cool things that I like, I'm really intrigued with is and Gene Schwartz is the one, reading that book, is how he talks about when you let's say you're first to your market, and you have a unique product, and then others catch on and they start to sell your product as well. And so all of a sudden you're not selling as much because you now have competition, whereas you were the first to the market. But what he talks about is exactly what like Omaha Steaks does, is how they're doing it. Like there's a lot of places out there selling sirloin steaks, but what Omaha Steaks is doing is they're selling the sirloin steaks with the chicken steaks and the apple pie, and they're creating these bundles.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the bundle with they've got the one, I just bought one, and it's got, it's called the Holiday Variety Gift Bag. And what they're doing is they're creating names for them.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing is they, like the one that I bought it's got filet mignon, it's got like the chicken, it's got the burgers, it's got the gourmet jumbo franks, and it gives them names, right? They give them names. They don't call them hot dogs, they call them gourmet jumbo franks. And then they've got stuffed baked potatoes and caramel apple tartlets. I mean, that's like apple pie. Mm-hmm. And then what they do is they're changing the names of everything, and they're putting together like a bundled list, and they give it a name. And now you're standing out from everybody else because you've created your own unique product.
And it's very hard to compare yours with somebody else or theirs with somebody else, because they've changed the items that are in the bundle. The names are different, and it makes it actually more difficult for a consumer to try and figure out, can I get this somewhere else?
You can't do it. So you've created your own unique product.
It's your own category too.
Your own category. And you think about that, if you're a local business,
mm-hmm.
I started to think about that today in a big way in a way that I should have a long time ago. And I started to think about all the things that we sell. I can sell, like we do strategy sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And, usually for years I've given that away. I should have really turned that into a product, and that's where you start. And then, we sell, okay, we can build websites. We can create content. We can, and, I've always sold it as a one package, but I've never really broken it out. I'm like, here's what you need all this, but I'm not breaking it down for you and saying,
you want to stack your offer.
You want to stack it, and you want to create different bundles. And then you want to maybe even say, well, you can get, the butcher cut filet mignon holiday pack, that kind of thing. And, I think that's one thing that this is something that's new to me that I've never done before. I'm learning about this. And it's part of your strategy, because what I'm seeing is we're faced in the internet marketing space. When I started out with SEO, like I didn't even know what an SEO, I didn't even know that I was, people would say, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't really know what I do.
I don't know what
I do. I get high on Google and it generates sales.
I get high on Google. I huff Google.
But one day somebody said, "Oh, you're like an advertising agency." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess I'm an advertising agency."
Hey, John, do you bundle stuff? Do you have, when you do a program for somebody, like you're going to do a summit or you're going to use some sort of if you present something to one of your potential clients, do you stack or bundle or create some different names for your stuff?
A lot of times we'll bundle in different things.
Like what would be in a bundle for you?
Maybe free email support or a group or different things like that would fit, that would add to the value of the course or the workshop or whatever it is we're doing. So those kinds of things would typically pop in.
I mean, would you bill for a strategy session? Because we saw that with when we were doing a lot more Pinterest stuff here, Maggie would just bill for strategy sessions separately rather than give it away. I mean, some people call it onboarding, some people call it something else, but sometimes somebody would just come to her and just pay, several $100s for her hourly rate.
It's fun. It's funny. I've done that both ways. Sometimes I'll bundle. Sometimes I'll actually bundle that in with something because I'd rather see them spend 15 minutes with me or whatever to get better value out of the program, than, and just wrap that in as part of the deal. And
but would you delineate that like line item by line item? When you sign up with me, I'll give you this 15-minute session. I'll give you this. I will review your videos. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so you get like, I don't know what, 5-6 things or something, or
Yeah, I think it's important to spell that stuff out because it's what everybody gets. I mean, it adds extra value, and it's funny. Certain things that I'm always surprised when I talk to other friends who do things that add value to stuff, and many of them will include like an hour session or half-hour session with them for coaching or one of those things. And it's surprising to me how many of them said that many people will buy their course but never take them up on the offer to meet with them.
That's
And
very common.
it's extremely common. So the other thing that I really try to do is try to give them things that really help them to expand where they're going with the class or workshop or whatever it is they're taking with me. So like, for instance, in the past, I've seen stuff that people do. It used to be all about the thud factor of, what can I take and just pile on. But like I said, attention spans are growing shorter and people don't have the time or attention or the hard drive space for all the stuff. I'd much rather give them something smaller that gives them some kind of transformative experience or gets them further ahead with whatever that it is that they're pursuing working on with me. It just seems to make much more sense to me to do it that way.
Yeah, I think the thud is a dud nowadays because the amount of overwhelm when you present something to someone is crazy. I think that's the beauty of dripping out content in a digital course as opposed to just presenting 111 videos to someone and it's like they just look at it and glaze over when that deer in the headlights look.
It's too much. I can't stand these courses. Like, so many people do that, and it's and I think there's I've heard people say that the majority of courses that are purchased, people don't get past the first 2% of the course.
No,
it's probably true. I get some stats not too long ago that was you have to be content with the idea that actually 97% of your buyers will not finish your course. That there's only like 3% who will actually finish your course. Crazy.
Brian Moran, he has a course that I bought, and he's got that thing called Samcart, which I like. And what he talks about is creating these courses where you're focusing on a single problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how you don't have to be the ultimate expert. You just need to be one step ahead of the person that needs to buy it. And so that problem, so now you're really isolating, and the real key here is to isolate that product. And then what he does, his typical thing seems to be, he switches it around, but like one of the things that, where do I have it? Oh yeah. I bought this book from him, if you can see this one here. And look at how thin it is. It's not very thick.
No.
Right. And it's small. It's not a very big, but it's not like a big book,
Yeah.
Got a big face on it though.
And it's only got 30, 35 pages, right?
Yeah.
And this was $27.
But people like faces.
They do like faces. It reminds me almost like Steve Jobs, where you have like the biography or so, where you have like half of a big face in black and white.
Yeah, and we were talking about ads. Anytime you can include a face in an ad is typically a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they're looking at you.
Yeah, especially if they're looking at you. People like.
But what Brian Moran is doing with this here is that his whole thing is, this is a $27 item. And then he offers you something else for, a little bit of an upsell that complements this. Yeah. And then he offers you the video part of it if you want the video. So he'll turn a $27 product into, it goes from 27 to 67 to, let's say, 197, and now it becomes a $300 product, all on something very short and specific. He also sends these things in the mail rather than it just being a download.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he gets less refunds.
Yeah,
physical mail gives you that emotional connection that a digital product just doesn't do.
It's funny you mentioned that. I like that you highlighted those things out. Like Brian goes and he gives you this for $27, and then there's a check mark for this thing for $37. Did you notice there was a lot more of that for this year's sales with Black Friday? Like the bump ups were different. It was like would you like this with this? Check. Would you like this with this? Check.
Would you like a little Parmesan with your
it was different card logic that took place this year with a lot of products that I saw. And that was it. Instead of buy this and then take you to this, it was, hey, you're buying this. Would you like to get fries with that and have a milkshake and or whatever? But it was that kind of a line item thing where you checked the box and said, yeah, I'd like that additional thing and this. And I thought that was kind of smart.
It can get a little crazy though, because I've seen upsells and downsells where it's like 11 or 13 of them or 15 even. And it's like at some point you just have to stop bashing your customer and beating them over the head to keep clicking buy, because they may go bye after their fifth upsell.
Yeah, I don't know what other people thought about it, but I liked that strategy. It was different than other years, and it's.
Were you talking about like on ClickFunnels where they have a little yellow box or so? Or would you like this also, or this is a one-time offer you're not going to see again?
Yeah,
or get the recordings.
Or with the initial, like you're looking at the initial product, and then, oh, would you like this with it, or would you like this? Instead of just you bought that and then they took you to something else, They gave you an opportunity to see what you could have with this thing that would make your experience or improve your experience with the first product. I thought that was pretty smart. I liked it. I don't know.
So you're talking about complementary products.
Complementary products.
Okay.
All listed on like the same page. With
if you've participated in a challenge or a summit, do you want the recordings of them as opposed to forcing yourself to be there live for 3 days or 5 days?
Yes. I thought that was different. It had a different look and feel to it this year than other years. I liked it. I don't know what other people thought about it, but I personally liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are getting more and more sophisticated on the way they sell too.
Yeah.
People are adapting.
Well, buyers are getting more sophisticated too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think this whole rebundling and buy this, like you want to train if somebody buys, if you buy this color couch, you might want to get this corner table to go with it and these
pillows
to go with it. And,
yeah. Well, that's kind of classic selling with a little bit of a new twist. Would you like this with this, or what color would you like, and would you like to buy that with this? It's kind of classic, but they're getting more sophisticated in the way that they've automated it.
But like with the Omaha Steaks, would they offer you like 25% discount on our caviar collection if they think you're a really high-end buyer?
Maybe.
Well, I just got what I bought today. I got the holiday variety gift pack. It's with the butcher cut filet mignon.
Yeah.
I got 25 total items. Okay, so they tell me you're getting 25 total items. Yeah. They list it out. It doesn't look like 25 to me, but you know what it is? It's like I get 4 6-ounce burgers.
Right. So that's 4.
Cut. So that's 4. I got 4 chicken breasts. So that's 8. And 8. So and it was a discount. So normally it would be, I saved $121. So normally it's a $299 item, plus I'm getting free shipping. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Maybe it's $299, but the real question in my mind always is, do they ever offer it for sale at that price?
Well, you know what they do? Yes, they offer other packages that are similar with a couple more items that are maybe like $325.
Oh.
Yeah. And this one would be normally $299, but now you can get it for $159. And then when you go to buy it, they hit you with all these other upsells. If you like that, you can get did you get the lobster tails?
And how about those meatballs?
But I think this is something to be is a takeaway for like business, your typical business can apply these kind of strategies, and nobody does that. They just say, hey, I'm an awesome dentist and I can do all kinds of dental work. Come on in. I've got teeth whitening. I got Invisalign. We clean your teeth. We do implants.
25% off of implants this week only.
Maybe what you do, you get the, the sparkly smile, clean breath bundle. Where we,
it could be a sparkle smile.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that is something to consider in the service industry. Is it easier in a service industry to create a bundle, or it probably is a lot easier in the physical product industry to create a bundle?
Well, yeah, but maybe you just, I don't know. I mean, every business is going to be a little bit different. I think you got to be a little bit creative and think about what is it that you sell. Like John, you were saying that one of the things that you do is like you offer email marketing, right? And one of the things that Brian Moran says is create the Gene Schwartz calls them performances, right? What are rather than benefits, he calls them performances. What does it do for the client, right? And one of the things that you offer is you offer email marketing. And what Brian Moran says is use the word so that. We offer email marketing so that, and then you list all the 25 things that you get in your email marketing package.
Right.
But if you just say, I'm just, yeah, we have a great email marketing package. Well, if you take it one step further and say the reason why we do the email marketing package is so that you don't have this problem and this problem and this problem, and it includes this, and this, and it includes 25 different items, and this is the butcher's cut email marketing package. You know what I mean? It's like you could substitute the words, but if you think down, and I think this is where it makes a difference today to market your whatever it is you're selling, whether it's a service or a product, is that you have to really start to think about all the different things that your product does. Like if you think about a roofer, right? Everybody says we have been in business for 25 years and we have done all these great roofs. We're pretty awesome at roofs.
Yep.
Whereas if you said, instead of starting out and saying we're the roofer, you start out, and this is one thing that I've seen on a couple sites where, these really, really awesome sites that are high selling sites, where if you, instead of saying we're awesome roofers, been in business for 25 years, your tagline was the most important thing that protects your most valuable asset and your family is your roof.
Yeah. The thing that occurs to me a lot when we talk about this, we've mentioned roofing a lot of times, but the other thing is people like a specialist. If you're a specialist, not only do you narrow down your market, but like, for instance, if we're talking about metal roofs and somebody comes along and says, oh, you make metal roofs. Hey, by the way, do you also do this other kind of roofing? Do you do this? But they like the idea that you're a specialist in this. Do I do other things? Well, of course I dabble in the other things on the side, but they love that kind of specialist thing. You can nail your target market and still not exclude people. Like I ended up in a group. This is kind of funny, actually. I ended up in a group that was pretty much mostly women, but the message really caught me. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly, but it was something that really was taken predominantly. I mean, obviously a lot of women heard it, and there were a few men that kind of took on it. It doesn't mean you're really excluding people if you try to be super niche targeted. There's still going to be a lot of people that like the message and are going to want to come over anyways.
Well, that Nicole, I think her last name is Barker, and she started a Facebook group, I think last February, and she's built that group from ground zero to over 11,000 members, and her audience are women entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls them all unicorns. You're a unicorn. And so which is sort of interesting because it's really focused on, it's client getting secrets for female entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Who are unicorns. There's, I guess, what's a unicorn? Something special. I guess that's what what she's implying.
Creature with a single.
But what she's done is her audience. You feel like if you're a guy and you go in your group, it's like you're really walking in. It's like you're not really a welcome guest because it's not the right profile for you. I can't hear you.
Do you know you're muted? You're on mute?
I muted myself because I was getting constantly pinged on this thing.
He's trying to tell us something, but his lips are moving, but I don't know.
I was just anyway, so Katrina Ruth had something somewhat similar to this, which is that I introduced to her from Rich Sheffrin, and she's very authentic. But her audience is primarily women.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has some men who come along for the ride also, and she's very, very good at showing how she's making 7, actually 8 figures on just selling tiny courses, where she's not a big ticket person.
Yes.
But what's interesting is that in her marketing, you can tell it's so female oriented, because I would get an email from her having purchased one of her courses, and it would say, the welcome email says, "Hey, gorgeous." And I was like, well, I'm feeling kind of pretty. So,
I feel special.
But in terms of the messaging, she does attract men. But it is pretty obvious at times the way she approaches her audience. It's geared more towards females.
Yeah.
But her private coaching definitely does gear towards both women and men. But it's interesting. It's like her low ticket course is geared towards the female entrepreneur, but when she gets higher up, she seems to attract more men.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to attract who we are anyways. We tend to attract a lot of people that are like us.
I do feel gorgeous now, though, having over
again.
Well, I'll tell you, if you look at, like the local marketing strategies group, I would say that the profile of the 3 of us is really the kind of profile that group is attracting.
Yeah.
It's not, definitely. I mean, it's people like us.
I would say, though, like in practice, I do remember that I was, my practice was probably 65% female, 35% male. And it was very interesting. I didn't really change my marketing. Had I really honed in on that a little bit more, I think I would have grown it even, much, much larger, even gargantuan practice. But the question always in my mind was, other people would say, hey, it's 60-40 is the norm, but I attracted like 65, sometimes 70% female. And I think that a lot of it had to do with if you actually listened to the patient for a change and took into account all of their various factors, how many kids they had, this and that, and developed that deep personal relationship. I think they were just happy that they would have a doctor who would actually communicate with them and really listen. And sometimes their spouses didn't fulfill the listening part.
Right. I get a lot of that too. I think I missed my calling somewhere as a therapist, but it's kind of funny.
Digital therapist, DT.
Yeah, kind of. And that is kind of what we do in some ways,
Coaching is always presenting a bit of sort of, it's not just a bit. It's 80% mindset. Yeah, 20% tactical and technological.
Sure. I think that's one of the most important things, is not just to be a good listener, but also to be very patient. And, I hear that a lot from, in fact, I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she says to me, she goes, I always feel so much better after I get done talking to you. It's like you have this calming effect over me of, it's going to be great. Everything's easy.
Peace and tranquility across me.
Yeah. But that's important to have that attitude, I think, especially with that segment of what we do.
Well, when you get into, I like that thing that, Ed, that you were talking about being very specific in what you're creating, because I think we saw that in John and I working towards creating a health broadcasters group, which is specifically designed to get healthcare practitioners doing live video, or at the very least creating video. That is not necessarily live, but maybe comes from a live format. And that's very specific, which is go live or go home.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we're going to do email marketing, and we're going to do live broadcasting, and we're going to work on your SEO, and we're going to work on your branding, and we're going to redesign your website, and we're going to create another funnel for you, and this and that and everything else. Now, the program that I have for my doctors is the whole enchilada, but I don't anticipate that anybody's going to complete this for at least 12 to 18 months.
Will we learn how to make enchiladas?
Well, we will. That's Tex-Mex. That actually is not Mexican, unfortunately.
No, just kidding.
We
I
do
have to,
tamales. There's a lot of tamales.
I
I had
have
to
to,
work that
I have to run, guys. I have to. How long is your happy hour? Is it more than an hour?
No, it's an
Oh,
hour.
it's an hour. You're at the top of the hour. Is there anything you want to say about press releases or things that you're doing now while we wrap up?
I'll mention. I created a press release that went live yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and it's a whole other topic and a whole education as to how I did it, but it ranks for 50, 60, 70 keywords already on Google. And it's not just the press release by itself or the other press releases in this package. What I did was I went for I use Chris Munch's program, and a lot of people I think struggle with it, and they don't get the results, because I get a lot of people reaching out to me saying, how do you get those kind of results? And I really break everything down, and I don't overlook keywords. What I do is, before I write any piece of content, I have, on my second screen, I have a notepad, and I'll go into the notepad and I'll start to post different keywords that relate. And what I'll do, like one of the things that I do is I'll go type in a keyword phrase or a single keyword, and like I'll go over and look at Google Images, because Google Images really tells you a lot about what people are posting, different words, and Google will also show right at the very top. They'll show you all kinds of different categories. And so I wrote I have a website down in Nashville, Tennessee that I own, and I rent it out to a contractor. And so what I did was I broke it down into all the different kind of uses. Like, you can use these epoxy floors for Ferraris, Porsches, and Corvettes, and other kinds of classic cars. And these floors have been used at notable places like, around the country, like the Texas Speedway and University of Texas Lobby and Jay Leno's classic car garage and things like that. So, what I'm doing is I'm adding, I'm embellishing like what would be normally, a very boring topic.
Right.
But you can use what I'll do is I'll do the keyword search for various words, and I go over to Google Images, because Google Images really it gives you a bigger story. And it helps you find other things that you can add to your content. So when I go to write the content, I have a format, and I can seed it with lots of keywords in a very, very natural way, all following that topic. And now I can get a lot of results. Now, the one that I did today, or I went live with yesterday, was it was like a premium one. So it got on Yahoo. It was picked up by Yahoo. It was picked up by Google News. And so what it does is, when you get picked up by all these high quality sources, it's almost like creating an imprint on your website. Imagine if your website was, putty, and you're putting like an impression, like you're making Christmas cookies, right?
It's like Silly Buddy.
That's exactly. So you're using this to make an impression on that.
I think I dated myself.
You don't always have to have all the keywords on your website that you need to rank for. You can use other sources to tell Google that this article on Yahoo relates to this website, and you can rank for keywords from your website that come from other sources, because you're creating that impression. And that's why it's that's how I go about an SEO strategy. Is you don't always have, now if you want to take it to another step, you can write a blog Like, you know what? I'll tell you, I found this really great blog. This is which is the formula. And I typed in Invisalign celebrities. And ranking right at the very top was somebody put together a blog. And it was something like 15 celebrities who have used Invisalign. And I'm going to tell you, it was it was right out of that topic and right out of that concept. So you had the introductory part about the Invisalign, and then you scroll down and it has, Tom Cruise, and it had Halle Berry, and it had Justin Bieber, and they didn't really say much other than, boy, doesn't Tom Cruise have the nicest looking teeth? They don't really know about Tom Cruise, but they're just putting a little
bit of an advertorial type of.
Yeah. So they're trying to capitalize any way they can, but it was a really, really good blog. And what you can do is you can write blogs like that in that kind of format. And then you can write a press release that you can also convert into a guest blog post, into a video, and then you link it all together and you create this network. And now you've got this whole like web of content that you've created around a single topic. And that right there will give you a lot of ranking results, and it'll only get better over time. And then if you were to take that blog and write another blog that is parallel to it, and you create another one of these networks, and you do the same strategy where you're trying to create this content to boost that particular blog, but you link this blog to that blog. Now this is how you start to get some exponential growth, because you're showing Google the relevance of one to another. And so now it's not 1 and 1 equals 2. It's 1 plus 1 equals 4.
Yep.
4 plus 4 equals 30. And that's how you get. And in the meantime, what you're doing is you're creating interesting content, so that when somebody lands on your site, they see that you've got some pretty interesting content. So it works a lot of different ways. But that's what I did. And I was just trying to see how many things I could rank for off one piece of content.
I think it's good today that we talked a little bit about formulas, because there's one thing you can hear from what we talked about today is there's formulas for everything we do. There's a formula for good copywriting. There's a formula for good advertising to make sure things are consistent. There's a formula for a good press release, formula for a good blog article. We follow consistent formulas so that we get fairly consistent results with things. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but that's kind of my final comment coming out of our discussion today, is if people haven't noticed that, it's really what we've talked about today.
Yeah, it's strategies and formulas that you have to be able to. I remember when I first started in the SEO world, before I even turned this into a business, I was trying to figure out how, in the beginning when I was trying to get the results, I was like, gosh, why would anybody ever do this? And I knew there must be a reason why somebody would, do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And there must be a better way. And so what I realized is that I have to try and get as many results out of every click that I possibly can. And if you think that way, now, like, I'm thinking, well, gosh, I'm a small, I'm just starting this agency. I didn't even know it was an agency, but for me, if I'm going to get clients, back when I first started, I was getting clients for $500 a month. I'm like, well, I need a lot of clients to make, some good money here. And I need to be able to get a lot of results out of everything I do to leverage my time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be writing 100 blogs a week. I can't be writing 100 blogs a month. So how does somebody make any money other than $5,000 a month working until your fingers are bleeding? And so that's when I started to learn, like, well, how do I get 50 results out of one blog? How do I create one of the right backlinks that's going to give that the power to boost that for lots of exposure so that it's generating enough business to justify my expense? So instead of having to do something every single month, if somebody pays me $500 a month, I want to be able to do one thing in, let's say, a day or two that's going to make me $6,000, even if it's over a year. Or, and if you go back 6-7 years ago, you could do that. And because the competition wasn't all that fierce, so you could create one piece of content that would sit out there for a long period of time, and sometimes years, and always be a consistent producer. And that's how you can make, up into the, I don't know how far you can go in this. You can make, a nice, low to mid 6-figure income with a small team. If you're approaching it that way. And that's what I realized, is that the only way I'm going to make any money with this, I got to figure out how I'm going to get more. I need to leverage my time. I need to leverage my results. And that's where I figured all this stuff out, just by trying to get every click, every time I click something, what is that click worth? I'm just, and you start to think in terms of clicks. Every little thing you do, can that click get you 10 results? So and that's my that's my theory behind blogs and press releases and everything like that. That's what I'm always trying to figure out. How do you make more mousetraps with less effort?
A better one.
I don't know if I want any more mice.
And you need one mousetrap that runs around after them.
One mousetrap, a mobile mousetrap. All right.
High producing mousetrap.
High producing mousetrap. Let's go into high productivity. We hope that you're going to have a very productive, well, not so much productive, but a restful, strategic, and I would say productive holiday season, so that you can start to have the new year running with a great deal of momentum. I think a lot of people tend to do nothing over the next couple of weeks other than feed themselves and watch a lot of football and other things like that. But it is a great opportunity to plan out some of these strategies and figure out which tactics are going to work best for you in the new year. And this is the perfect time to plan, and actually even to reach out to potential clients or to your existing clients, because I think we all have the notion that nobody's going to be listening to us and nobody's paying attention. But with the current pandemic situation, this Christmas and this New Year's is a lot different than previous years. And I think it's up to us to take advantage of this in terms of moving forward into the next year with a great deal of momentum.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. All right. Sounds good.
Exactly when we'll be back, but we're not going to be back Christmas Day.
No.
We might toy with the idea of being back on New Year's Day. At least John and I might want to discuss.
New Year's Day would be.
We'll figure that all out.
Not a bad way to start the year, actually.
New Year's Eve would be great too.
Yeah, a half hour or something like that. So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So anyway, but we will not be back here next week, but we wish you all a very happy holiday season, whatever holiday that you happen to celebrate. And New Year's is pretty universal, as is Thanksgiving. So
yes,
we'll be back around the same bad time, same bad channel, not next week, but perhaps the following week. So with that in mind, have a wonderful holiday. We will see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.